Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Desiree. Today I just wanted to share about fighting through discouragement. I've been going through feeling discouraged for the last few weeks and just feeling like the Lord has been silent um, in those moments of feeling discouraged. Um, and so just wanted to share. I know I talked about before about just being transparent and authentic. Um, and so in this season of feeling discouraged, I have felt like I wanted to pull back on posting. I have felt like I just wanted to stop going to school and feeling like I wasn't equipped enough or that I was doing well enough to finish. And here we are towards the end of the semester and still feeling that way. Um, and in this week, I felt some anxiety, which then led to me feeling a little down. And then I started to feel discouraged again. But the discouragement went up a little bit, right? And started to cause a little bit of between the anxiety and the discouragement, it started to cause a little bit of a separation. I started to pull away from God a little bit. And so in this week, the Lord was kept reminding me of the word trust. And he was like, how much do you trust me in this season? Right. So I'm bringing you to this season to go to school, to do this thing. Um, and when I say school, I'm in seminary. And so there, I know that comes with its different battles, especially spiritually, because the enemy doesn't want us to increase our biblical literacy, right? And so I've felt some discouragement. I felt like maybe I shouldn't finish. I felt like this is why I didn't want to come back to school, because of all the angst and anxiety and all the things and the ups and the downs, right? But I knew I couldn't be led by my emotions. And so what I did is I kept talking to the Lord. I kept fighting through the discouragement, the anxiety. Um, the Lord, I was pulling on Philippians 4:8, and I'm like, Lord, I know your word, and I know your power. I know that you can lift all these feelings that I'm feeling that are making me feel down and doubting, right? And so, but I kept speaking it over myself, and I listened to some praise and worship music. I particularly like to listen to hymnals when I'm feeling discouraged or down. And so this week was a little rough for me. And so the Lord, like I said, kept telling me, like, how much do you trust me in this, right? And it wasn't until Wednesday when I was getting ready to try to sit down and do some homework, and the Lord was like, no, I need you to go back to the last thing that you were studying before you started school. And so I've been the last year working through and studying First Corinthians. I'm now in chapter 10. I'm in like the middle section. This week I was studying chapter verses 10 through 11. And the Lord brought me to, I was I like to look at I have a study Bible, and so in the middle it has the cross-reference scriptures, or chain. It's like a chain of cross-reference scriptures to provide clarity on what is there, right? To give you more of context, which I love, because then it requires me to go back to the Old Testament. And so the Lord brought me to Psalms 103. And as I was reading through this, it talks about how God is a forgiving God, and it talks about how much he loves us and how high his love is for us, and just his compassion. And then I went and read through 104, Psalms 104, and just talking about God the creator, and how when he creates things, and even talks about how when those who were waiting on him to provide food at the right time, their hands were open and they were satisfied with good things. And so these two passages, I just sat and reflected, because it's like, wow, Lord, you hear me. Like, I love, like, so in this season of discouragement, I can tell that the Lord hears me, right? Because when I sit down to read his word, um, he uses different passages to illuminate me, to encourage me, to give me the strength that I need to continue to press on. Now, when I come to read scripture, when I come to spend time with God and his word, I don't come with a preconceived notion. I don't come with an agenda. I pray. This is literally what I pray. I'm like, Lord, thank you for the richness of your word. I pray and ask that you will be kind enough to illuminate me to what you have me to learn from your word, because it's live and active. And as I'm learning it, and as you're illuminating your word, and showing me what you have me to learn and to take from it, help it to penetrate my heart, and to influence and work in through how I live out my life, so that I can live according to your precepts. And then I also pray, once I get through applying it to my own life, that I can then pour it out to others, because then I've lived it out. I've walked it out. I've wrestled through it. I prayed with the Lord through it. I've studied it, right? And so I just love that. Like, it prompted me to just talk to the Lord about where I was. I ended up doing the ugly cry, what we call the ugly cry. But it was helpful. The discouragement, some of the anxiety didn't lift right away. I'm still feeling a little discouraged, but I'm still pressing through, and I'll get to that in a moment. And so, the Lord led me to those passages, right? And so I chewed on those for a minute. And so, like I said, I was working on some homework. I was finishing up an assignment for my biblical hermeneutics class. And so we've been walking through Genesis 24 this whole semester. And so my assignment is a biblical exposition of Genesis 24. And so we are allowed to use a few commentaries to complete the assignment. And so I was reading through the Bible Knowledge Commentary. And as I was reading, I was encouraged, because there is a section in Genesis 24 where Abraham gives his servant, he commissions him to find Isaac a wife. He gives him the instructions. He lays it all out. The servant then goes on a journey. But there's a point in the journey where the servant prays a prayer asking God to basically make his journey a success. He lays out specifically, what he desires the woman to say when she comes to the well, and praying that the Lord, he also further down, he prays that the Lord would show him that it ends up being Rebecca, showing him that Rebecca is the one. And so, I was encouraged in reading through the commentary, because it talks about how God was behind the scenes, but he was still working, right? And God wasn't present. He didn't perform anything specific. There was the commentary says there was no miracle, there was no prophetic oracle. It does not even restate the Abrahamic covenant. And so, it calls this specific event in Genesis unique. But the one part that stuck out to me was it says the anticipatory role of faith expressed in personal prayer looks for outward evidence of God's working and is predominant because God is not visibly active. And so that was encouraging to me because I know I talked about it before. Like sometimes we can get discouraged because we can't always see that God is working. And so for me in this season, feeling discouraged, feeling like I want to just give up and give in, I'm like, Lord, I can't see that you're working, but I know that you never stop working. I know you gave me something to do. You gave me, a directive. You gave me a task to do, and it's my responsibility to trust that you're going to provide everything that I need, that you're going to get me through, though it may not be easy, though it may not be always comfortable. Yes, you're going to stretch me, and yes, you're going to prune me and break me and put me back together, right? But that's all in him working behind the scenes. And it also talks about in here just their willingness, their heart posture. So the servant's heart posture, Rebecca's heart posture, Rebecca's brother's heart posture, and their willingness to be obedient to what God was asking them to do. And so that's to speak to what I was talking about earlier, is that, I wanted to keep doing what the Lord was asking me to do, not out of obligation, but out of obedience. Because I love him dearly, because I know I can trust him, I'm going to be obedient to what he's asking me to do. Because, in here, in Genesis 24, Abraham is obedient and trusting God because he knew of the promise that God had made to him back in chapter 12. And so he's standing on that, and he's like, God is, God always comes through. He doesn't fail. And so that's encouraging to me, because it's like, even though I can't see you working, I know you're working. I'm going to still be have a willing heart to press through, even in the hard seasons, even through the discouragement. I'm going to press through. I'm going to press into you and trust that you have everything worked out, right? I'm going to be willing to trust you in all of it, even in a discouragement. And then further down, when it ends on talking about their willingness to be obedient to the Lord, it ends with they who do the will of God prayerfully and obediently are led by God. And it talks about Proverbs 3:5-6, and of course that has been a word that has been on repeat for me throughout the course of this year. And multiple times I have prayed to the Lord, asking him to show me how I've been, how can I be obedient in the season that I'm in? How can I, at one season was be still and be obedient. And in that obedience, I need you to be still. That's what I'm asking of you. And in this season, I feel like it's obedience and trust. And so one of the commentaries that I was going through was saying that, trust and obedience go together. And I'll actually share the commentaries that I used just to do a little bit of study of Proverbs 3:5-7. And so, I love the fact that it pointed out that trust and obedience go together. And then it also speaks to, God didn't give us our mind to rely on our mind, but we have to trust in him and knowing the plan that he has for us. So there's also a point of surrender, of surrendering our will, and understanding who he is as God, as Father, as author and finisher of our faith. That he has a perfect plan, and he's going to show us and direct us in the way that we should go. And he'll make our, and make our path straight. Another thing that a few of the so I use the Bible Knowledge Commentary, I use the American Standard Commentary, as well as the I will post the third one because it's not coming up right now. But it was basically talking about how even with Rebecca and the servant's journey, the journey for the servant, and then just Rebecca and her willingness. She didn't have any apprehension when she told the servant, "Yes, I'll go back with you," so that she can marry Isaac. And in the servant's journey to find a wife for Isaac, there was no opposition, there was no adversity, there was nothing in his way that stopped his journey from being successful. And the commentaries point that all back to God because he's sovereign. He can do what he needs to do. So in trusting him and he doing what he does, there are just certain things that he just doesn't, he keeps out of our way in order to get to that end goal or what he has us to do. And so I just love, I love this. And so in the Bible Knowledge Commentary, it says, this means more than guidance. It means God removes the obstacles, making a smooth path or way of life, perhaps better, bringing one to the appointed goal. And so for me, that's huge. Because I'm like, Lord, I'm over this. I'm over doing school. I'm over this anxiety. I'm tired of feeling discouraged. I'm tired of feeling like I'm not good enough. I'm not equipped enough to share and encourage women on social media. I'm just going to be very transparent here. I've already processed with the Lord. I'm not processing on here. Just being, Lord, like not being afraid to interpret your word, right? Because I'm learning. That's the purpose of being in seminary, right? Learning the tools that I need to properly interpret your word and understand. And then the key thing too is inviting the Lord in as you're studying. That's one thing the Lord has also been just reminding me of in this season, is inviting him in. It's like his word is God breathed. Like his word is breathed, is his breath, literally. He breathed out on each author of each book, and working through the Holy Spirit to translate what he had them to write. And I love in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, later down in the passage of verse 11, Paul says these things were written for our instruction. And I love that because I love the fact that the Lord literally left instructions for us for how to live according to his precepts. And that's even in feeling discouraged. I don't know who this was for, but I just pray that even in your discouragement, even in your despair, that you don't pull away from the Lord, because that's what our feelings can do. They can make us want to pull away from the Lord when we need to be running to him. One of the commentaries also talked about clinging. What and who are you clinging to when you're feeling discouraged, despair, depressed, anxious? What thing are you pulling? Are you running to? What person, thing, object, or social media? I don't know. You know what it is. If you don't, ask the Lord to reveal it to you. What are you putting in place of God when you are feeling these feelings of despair, discouragement, feeling depressed, feeling anxious, feeling fearful, feeling doubt, who or what are you turning to? If it's not the Lord, then I tell you, you need to put that thing to death. And you need to run to the Lord, getting his word. Allow him to illuminate you in his word and show you himself, his love and kindness. In studying Genesis 24, we were able to study the word hesed, which is God's love. And in other translations is kindness. It can be translated as kindness. So it's loving kindness, God's loving kindness. And so, yeah, I just pray that even if you're feeling discouraged, just praying that the Lord would comfort you in this season, that you would continue to press into him as he's got you. He knows the plan. He can handle every emotion that you have. I think about Psalm 42, and the psalmist he says, "Oh, my soul, why are you so cast down?" And then in that same verse, he's like, "But I remember God. I remember what he did." And so I think if we understanding, we have to combat discouragement with encouragement. I love that, about a month ago, Jackie Hill Perry preached on exhortation, encouragement, encouraging yourself in the Lord. And I know sometimes that can be hard to do, and it may require you crying out to the Lord. But yeah, I just encourage you to do that. Scripture says to pour out your heart before the Lord. He hears you. He sees you. He's going to catch every single one of your tears, even if you're frustrated and tired of the season that you're in. He's got you, sis. He's got you. Just continue to press into him. So yeah, I pray that this was encouraging. And I will talk to y'all later. Bye.